This is Fiction Madness.
Did God create man, or did man create God? We could argue that God manifested himself to the first man or woman on earth, like Adam and Eve, and since then, word about his power and wisdom has been passed down through generations. But suppose all of that Genesis story is bullshit.
Oh my God!
And just for the fun of it, let's say that the concept of God was created by a human being who is long dead and we never knew his name. If true, then who the fuck was he? Where did he live? What made him conjure up an idea that has built communities, armies, empires, and makes people blow themselves up?
Allahu Akbar!
Would that make him the biggest genius of all time? Or the greatest moron who should best stay in anonymity? I decided to explore this possibility in a story that will definitely piss off a few people, and it's called Harold, the Man Who Invented God. Before we begin the story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me, Don Luis Zavala, on Facebook and Twitter to get updates on all the crazy shit I'm doing. See the links in the description wherever you are listening to this. Now onto the good stuff. This was a time so long ago, people didn't have names. Sheep's fur and goat skin were the trending fashion. Some villages had formed in desolate places near rivers and sea coasts, but many opted to search for more fertile land. Language had yet to be engraved in pages. The world was very big and hostile. Hunting was the most admired vocation. Although we don't know what names the earliest humans gave themselves, let's give our protagonist one, Harold. At the age of 6, he had been struck by bad luck when a lion raided his family's tent and ate his mother and father alive. Fortunately, he saved himself by running away. He ran and ran and ran and ran as far as he could until he had a revelation. Running away from your problems could save you from death. This was why Harold never sought a wife, nor did he raise a family. He became the lonely nomad of the times, voyaging across miles in the wilderness with his spear and stone dagger, eager to find his own little paradise. A place where he could hunt less dangerous animals and be surrounded by trees and fresh river water. He never stopped looking, as he needed to conquer that utopia before someone else would. One day, while ambling at the top of a rocky ridge that overlooked an astounding array of plateaus, Harold fell down the steep slope. He didn't know if he had slipped or if something pushed him. He couldn't stop himself from tumbling until his right foot slammed against a spiked volcanic stone, fracturing his ankle. The impact split open his flesh, exposing his shattered bones. Blood poured out of his open wound like a broken hose. The pain was so intolerable, Harold eventually lost consciousness. Hours later, Harold woke up. Drowsy and confused, his eyes took their time to recover. The sun was setting in the west. Orange clouds ornated the deep blue skies. Eagles fluttered high above. Darkness would soon engulf the environment. Harold needed to find a safe place to spend the night, like a small cave or under a tree, before he becomes dinner for wolves. With a broken foot, walking looked like a painfully ludicrous endeavor. His legs still hurt, but there was something odd. A piece of tattered cloth had been tightened around his splintered ankle and heel. Beneath it, something solid gripped his bone. Someone must have done it while he was unconscious. But who? That was when Harold propped himself up and noticed an old lady was seated cross-legged by a fire, wearing bare skin with a hood. She ate a cooked rabbit from a skewer.
Who are you?
Harold demanded. Harold didn't know what the fuck she said. Although he was dubious about this strange lady, she didn't look threatening and wondered if she was the one who dexterously patched up his injury.
Where do you come from?
Unable to comprehend a damn word, Harold tried analyzing her gestures.
Where do you come from?
For some reason, the old lady kept pointing at the descending sun.
You come from the sun?
Exasperated, the old lady threw away the cooked rabbit and stood up to help Harold stand on his left foot. He placed his arm around her shoulders and she became his crutches. She knew of a spot nearby where he could rest for the night. It was a grotto, one that had a gentle stream of fresh water. Upon settling down on a flat surface, inches from the streamlet, he noticed he had been escorted into a beautiful and serene place, like the paradise he had been searching for all his life. Unspoiled moss layered the surfaces. The air was misty and cool. The minerals in the rocks shimmered like tiny diamonds, and the limited sunlight that made its way into the cave reflected a cosmos of moving solar flares on the rocky walls and ceiling.
This is gorgeous.
And during the countless days he spent there, he was never bothered by strangers or wild animals, only by the old lady who brought him cooked meat every day and checked on his mending foot. Harold was grateful, yet he didn't know how to thank her.
How do you say thank you in that ridiculous dialect you speak? Tagarakapuska? Interesting. I'll try to remember that.
In fact, the old lady had told Harold to shut the fuck up and eat. Though being alone and unable to move much became insufferably dull, Harold had plenty of time to think and think and think about his life, about his fractured limb, about how the hell an old lady could be from the giant blazing star in the daylight sky. Several months later, he was able to walk with a pronounced limp, aided by a log he used as a cane, which the old lady provided, and every day he did gentle exercises to regain use of his foot. It took a while for Harold to get used to his new device. One day, the old lady stopped coming to the grotto.
Huh? Hey, where'd she go?
Harold thought something bad happened to her, but by then he could step out of the cave and scour the surrounding plateaus and pasture.
Lady! Old lady! Where are you?
There was no sign of her anywhere anymore.
If I don't see you again, thank you, Tagarakapushka.
He never knew what that phrase actually meant. Even if she never came back, nor did they bump into each other again, Harold never felt alone. All he needed to do was look up at the sun and know that the old lady watched over him. Although the injury left him permanently crippled, He could still walk, but he could no longer run, which meant he could no longer hunt. How was he supposed to protect himself from wild animals and cannibals? This was a problem he couldn't run away from. The most logical thing for him to do was join a tribe that didn't want to eat him. But even clans needed a good reason to let an invalid become a member. That was when he got the very idea that would forever change the world. He became a prophet. This was the best idea he could come up with. He needed to impress strangers with a story they would believe about the old lady from the sun. Harold had figured out how to get his message across. He dramatized his tale using hand gestures, different tones of voice, and even drawing on the soil.
Me, Harold, when little child, a lion ate my mommy and daddy. Then I walk and walk by myself very far from my homeland. La 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 la. Until I fell down a mountain. I rolled, and my leg, my poor leg.
Even if nobody took Harold seriously, the fact that he had an audience was enough.
And suddenly, an old lady from the sun, from the skies, came down to heal my foot. Look! She healed me, hallelujah! Thank you, old lady. And now here with you, telling you this. Can I have some meat?
An arrow split open his forehead, ending his life. His body was dragged to a tree and tied upside down to slice open his torso, remove his internal organs, and eat every inch of his flesh. Although they didn't understand a word he said, some of his spectators believed what happened to him. His dramatic performance was well understood. After all, there was the evidence of his broken foot and how miraculously a shattered bone could heal so well with help from a divine being that allegedly resided in the sun, just as Harold told his audience. Insomuch, Harold's life story reached many curious ears, and from that moment on, the existence of an all-powerful being that is both wise and stubborn, compassionate and a sadistic son of a bitch spread across the world. The idea of God made others want to do godly and ungodly things. This was what created cities, vast temples, schools of learning, art, literature, moral systems, sacred armies, kingdoms, empires, and inspired many to make sacrifices in the name of something that was greater than themselves. All because of Harold, the greatest storyteller of all time, and how his idea had been stolen, being the biggest copyright infringement of all time. This story has been brought to you by the Holy Bible. Check with your local church and see. I'm kidding. I know you fell for that, totally fell for that. No, but in all seriousness, Harold, the Man Who Invented God, was written, produced, and edited by me, Don Luis Zavala. If you really enjoyed it, I have other stories you should check out. They are 3 novels, The Santa Claus Kidnap, Secrets, and Oh My Holy Phone, all available on Amazon.com on paperback and Kindle. See the links in the description wherever you are listening to this. Also, please check out the music of 4 immensely talented composers whose work you heard in this episode. They are Kevin MacLeod, Sirius Beat, Turpak, and Uriv. You can find out more about them and their music in the web links placed in the description. This is an original work created by Don Luis Zavala in 2019 for his podcast Mad Fiction. Copyright laws apply. It was edited using HocuSci 2 and Lexis Audio Editor. Thank you for listening.